Hi, folks. Frank the Pest Geek here, host of the Pest Geek podcast and owner of Nature Pest, a holistic pest management firm that focuses on organic, compliant facilities, integrated pest management. I know that's a mouthful for residential and commercial environments. Basically, what do? We take the same principles that are done in hospitals, hotels, laboratories, basically high-level facilities, and we bring that to the home or business. This is what we specialize in. And what we're going to be discussing is holistic pest control, the 5 most important things that people need to understand in order to get this kind of service to be effective for them. And we're going to go ahead and get into that right now. The number one thing that you need to know about pest control is that pests need a way in. If you can exclude them by doing what is known as an exclusion service, which is a pest remediation service, a pest prevention service, then you can solve about 80% of pest problems that are in a home, like large roaches, like even spiders, rodents. Because if you understand how they get in, I'm going to show you a series of pictures. And if we can say that 90% of our problems in commercial and residential accounts have to do with the lack of pest prevention, where we can get into pest proofing a property, we can eliminate 95% of the pesticide needed to control the problem. I know this sounds counterintuitive. This is based on science. This is based on 50 to 70 years of entomology knowledge of how these pests behave. This is what you learn from the universities. This is what we have to do in a hospital. This is what we have to do in a sensitive laboratory, in a surgical center, because we cannot contaminate it. And yet you're buying all of these over-the-counter products and you're still having huge problems. And we solve all of these problems this way. I'm going to show you something. This is very easy. See, something as simple as this, a rodent problem. A rat can fit to that. A rat can climb up that wall on a textured wall and get into your dryer. Roaches can get into your dryer. By simply replacing that, you eliminate that possibility of that entry point for that pest. This is an actual picture. How many times do I get a call where somebody's got a rat died in the dryer and it smells and they had to call now a repairman and take that dryer apart to get it repaired, to get that rat that died in there. All right? Inside the homes, between the walls. Why? Because pests will get in from outside anywhere they can. Sometimes the roofs aren't properly sealed. The gaps, the angles underneath. I'm going to show you several pictures where it isn't. And insects are getting in like American roaches. And then there are people saying, well, I only see them in the kitchens. Well, why? They're getting out through all the openings they could find. By sealing that, when we do our initial service, we seal this. And therefore, we don't have to use as much chemical, and we don't have to keep making a reapplication of chemical. What people think is that if I spray my house every month, okay, I'm not going to have bugs. Well, you're still going to have bugs. Remember, it kills. If the bug has to walk over the pesticide to die. The difference between pest control and killing is that you shouldn't be seeing the bugs every month, and you shouldn't be needing a pest control service every month. This is an old way of doing things that is no longer necessary based on the knowledge that we have. Here is a crawl space. The biggest problems we have in South Florida is with crawl spaces. And let me get a little bit closer here. Crawl spaces like this, we go in and customer tells us, oh no, our crawl space is sealed. So we go in, we do the initial service, and we find a brick. And there is a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of separation between that. These are actual clients. I've got thousands and thousands of pictures of jobs we've done where we show the client why it is that they're having a problem. People call us because they don't want the chemical. In order not to have the chemical, there has to be that pest proofing done. Simply bolting this back and screwing it back in and maybe drilling a couple of new holes solves the problem of them getting back into that crawl space, of a rat getting into the crawl space. Here is where the air conditioning conduit, the electrical, and the outlet for the water has been pushed through that mesh. They opened up the mesh, and now it was a nice attempt to exclude it. Unfortunately, I can fit a whole thumb through there. Well, guess what? Rats are getting through there. We were getting constant calls from the client that they were getting American roaches all the time in the house. Well, there was a couple of other openings around the property, and we sealed them, and we stopped this from happening. Here is one where the mesh had completely fallen in. They had simply tacked a little bit of cloth there on that wood, and it had fallen in. And you can get a cat in there. You can get a raccoon underneath it. These are crawl space homes. Here's one where it was completely encapsulated. They must have spent with the addition, by the way, this is a $1 million home on Miami Beach, about 1,700 square feet. They added about 500-600 square feet, and they encapsulated the entire crawl space, which brings humidity down and does the reduction in heat, and it saves on the bill, but they left all kinds of holes. You encapsulated it, but roaches were still getting in. Mind you, this is the number one call that we get, are large roaches. A rat can fit through there. The contractor did the work, left the hole open. But here's another one where people call me and they say, well, how long have you been having this problem? Well, for about a year now. Well, chances are that hole has been there for 8-9 years. And a little bit at a time, roaches are getting in. Roaches are getting in. A rodent can get in. And now, when you see roaches in your home in all different sizes, meaning it's birthed inside already, this didn't happen just a month ago. Now we have hundreds of roaches inside of the structure, and you're seeing 5, 6, 7, 10 a week. And we got to get those roaches out of that structure and bait it and kill them all, because they're going to continue to come out, and it's going to take months to get the control. You can't solve these problems with a one-time service. Here's a classic one, garage doors. There is the seal that's damaged, and people are getting roaches in their garage. Well, if there's gaps in the seals and there's wood damage, there's obviously wood decay there, then easily we find snakes and large roaches and mice. And then worst of all, if the door from the garage into the home has a bad seal, you're going to see them. You say, we only see them in the laundry room. Well, the laundry room is right next to the garage. We only see it in the kitchen, and the kitchen is right next to the garage. Kitchens and bathrooms are going to be the number one place, and we're going to find out why. Here's a home that I did the initial service for. I did the initial inspection on, and they had just moved into this home. And I had looked at it. It's a steel roof. There was no gaps anywhere. All of a sudden, I get a call. Well, there's a bad smell right over the garage. This is right next to the garage. That camera in the corner wasn't there. This recently installed. That's the garage right there. This is where they have their office, and they had completely sealed it. And come to find out, I see this large conduit going up there and all this plastic. Well, the camera guys were there, and then another electrical needed, and then they needed to install the box for the Tesla to get recharged, and that's what all that wiring is. And if you can see that top corner right there on the top of that big plastic piece, there's a hole. That was big enough. They left it open. They were doing their thing. A rat climbed up, went inside through there, and died somewhere up there, and they were smelling it. Well, can't tear it open. What did we do? We went in and excluded it. We went in and used a product called Excluder, and we stuffed it. And now a rat's not going to be able to get anymore. But the uncomfortable experience that they went through in dealing with this is what we try to save customers from, is from the awkward experience. You know, that's our number one goal. Here's a classic one that I get calls, and about 90% of all rodent problems that we have are attributed to this. This is the air conditioning conduit going up into the attic from the compressor that is outside. If you're in South Florida, this is common. What happened is they have brand new construction, or they changed out the unit and they put this flashing covering that covers all the way up into the attic, and they never sealed it with something that a rat couldn't go through. So here you are in a townhome situation where you have 5, 6, 7, 8 units. They're all exposed, and I'm getting calls that they have rats going through the attic. We get to the unit. Sure enough, it's open. We can exclude this unit, but what happens with the other 5 units? And the attics aren't sealed, and rats are still going to go across. You get into an impossible situation where this now is an association problem, where the association needs to inform all the tenants they need to get this sealed. Contractors install brand new air conditioners and never exclude it. Why? Because they're not rodent experts. We get all kinds of calls where people are getting American roaches. Why? American roaches like to go up into the attic. Any opening they find up, they're going to get in there, and they love attics. And then all of a sudden, you're in the second story, and you're only getting roaches on the second floor? That makes no sense. Why? They're coming out through the attic. If you read the entomological information, you will find out that this is absolutely true. Here's one, same home that had that that encapsulated that crawl space. They installed these little plastic vents over where the other vents used to be. And I said, you're still getting roaches in the home. Let me look around. Well, I look, and those gaps are too big. The solution for this is remove that cover and install a mesh screen in the bag and reattach the cover. That's going to stop all insects from getting through there. Here is a condo in Fort Lauderdale that is a hotel condo. It's a hotel, but it has individual units and it's time shared and all this. And they had installed in the bathroom, the owner of the unit had a little combination washer dryer, which was really small, installed, and they opened up that wall to install. And he says, I'm getting all these roaches in the bathroom. They had about 6 pest control companies go there. We go in and we start probing around. We find in the kitchen, this is what we found. This is what we had to do. We had to seal it. All of that was open. And when I pulled that open, there was like 20 dead roaches in there. The problem was nobody knew that was in there because only the owner used it. He had a lock on it so that the tenants that were renting to use it didn't use it. Only he used it. And nobody knew it was there. Nobody asked, what is behind that? And I said, we need to open that to find out. He says, well, it's just a washer and dryer. Aha, a washer and dryer. There must be plumbing. There must be holes. They opened the wall to install it and never sealed it. This is the same unit in the kitchen. Having in the kitchen, this is an exhaust vent that went through the building out somewhere. And nobody had nobody had seen it behind the stove. We went and said, we're just going to buy a screen, custom cut it down, reassemble it, put it in there and caulk it, and we're going to stop. It's going to vent, so there's breathing that has to happen, but the bugs aren't going to get through. We also found there was drywall damage behind the refrigerator. We fixed that. Here she's had this unit. She's had 6 pest control companies go through there, spraying it every month, and could not get the control. It had nothing to do with spraying. We got to stop the roaches from coming in. This is the same unit. You see those little black little things? Those are Velcro strips. This is a hot tub. This is the cover for the hot tub, and all the plumbing is in there, and there's holes about that big coming through the floor, and there's dead roaches all over in there. Well, it was loose. All we did was take the little, Velcro strips, replaced them all, and got a nice tight seal. Now, she only saw one roach in like 3 months that we had serviced that unit. Why? We stopped all the entry points. This is what I'm talking about. When 90% of the time we go in, it has nothing to do with chemical. When other pest control companies have failed, is because they failed to exclude it. Most technicians aren't trained to do exclusion. They're trained to do chemical application. And they tell the customer, you need to fix this and you need to fix that. And the customer can't find a handyman, doesn't know how to do it, and it doesn't get done because the customer is busy. This is why we have to do it. If we want to get real control, we have to take a holistic pest control approach to the situation and handle it ourselves. Here is a home that there's nothing we can do for. If you notice, the drywall, there was water damage. The drywall completely fell apart. And I see back there the cinder block. This requires the kitchen to be removed, all the cabinets, re-drywall that entire wall, and then put it back. If there is no exclusion done on the outside where the roaches are getting in from, every tile roof, every Mexican tile or Spanish tile roof, and these houses have angles. Underneath those angles, the contractor doesn't seal very well because water is never going to get in. And roaches over time find their way in. We're not talking about a month. You're talking about year over year over year of exposure, allowing them to come in and breed inside the home is where the problem is. Here is one where they were having rat problems. This is an elderly daycare facility, and you can see there's a huge hole there because there is wood decay, fungi on that wood. The wood's rotted. And look at the gaps. And they were having an issue with rats getting in. In order for us to get the control in that place, we would have to go in at night when they close, set up the traps, come back in the morning before they open, remove the traps. Why? These were elderly people that some of them had dementia. The last thing we want is for an elderly person to go into a trap, get their hand caught, or touch one of our traps, start playing with it, set it off during the day. So we're telling the owner, the easiest thing here is replace that door right now. That frame, get a contractor in here, replace that door. We were going in and we had caught 2 rats and we had put stations outside with, rodenticide bait. But that isn't a guarantee that the rat's going to go inside of a bait station when he's used to getting inside and eating. He was finding peanuts. He was finding food. They had food left out. They had fruit. And this was a nightmare to try to control. We get a call from a mall store this is the jewelry store, by the way. This is the lobby to the jewelry store. By the way, the cheapest item in there is probably $13,000. It's in an open mall, meaning they have gardens inside the mall. Within 20 feet from there's water fountains, and there is a landscape, there's mulch, there's dirt, and they were getting roaches inside the store. They were coming in the morning, finding dead roaches, finding live roaches inside the store. All I did is take one look at that, looked across 20 feet from there and said, yeah, they're all breeding inside all those plants, and they're coming in at night. Well, you can spray that all you want to get control. And what happens to all the mulch areas nobody's treating, to all those flower beds? And they were getting roaches. I said, you need to call a door manufacturer that makes this door Have them send a technician over to put seals between those doors, and that's going to solve your problem. Because the mall already had a pest control company coming in monthly or bi-monthly or whatever and spraying. The problem is, from the time that it takes for that bug to walk across that spray and die, it's 7 to 10 days. The bug has to walk. If they're not spraying all those plants and the area where the mulch is, they're breeding in there and moving across the entire mall. Apartment building calls us. These are $500,000 to $1 million condos. And they said customers are finding roaches on the first floor and all over the stairs. We need something stronger to apply. I took one picture of that and said, look at the gap on the bottom of that door. This is right on the street where there is sewers, there is storm drains, and there's mulch areas and gardens, and the bugs are just walking in off the street. All the maintenance engineer had to do was put a new threshold on that, fix it, and put an outside seal so the bugs can't get through that door. That was the solution. It isn't about stronger. There's no such thing as stronger chemical. It doesn't exist. We can only apply it legally at the dosage that the label says, and we cannot go above that. And no matter how much chemical you put outside that door, the rain is going to wash it away. You can't spray hard surfaces with most pyrethroids. It's illegal because it'll wash off and go into the storm drain. The solution is exclusion. Here is a rehab center that this is the kitchen, and they would leave the door open literally all day. They had rats and roaches walking into there, literally walking in. This was not the only door. This is the back door. 3 feet from that door on this side is a catch basin for the grease where there's a grease trap, and there's a sewer right there. And they were just coming up through the sewer and walking right in. There is that frame needed to get replaced. That door needed to get replaced and be closed at all times. Here's a warehouse that had huge rat problems. We got called. And I said, how often is this door open? He says, well, all day. And then look at the damage around that frame from the forklifts hitting it. This is a retail flooring place which had a retail showroom, and the rat problems were so big, and they were paying $65 a month for like a 10,000 square foot warehouse. Ridiculous. I said, you're going to need several thousand for us to come in, start dealing with it. You got to get this repaired. You got to get the doors shut. They got to be shut during the day. He says, we can't. We got shipments coming in and out of here constantly with trucks backing up. And says, you're in a commercial mall, in a strip. The rats are going to be all over the place. They're always getting in, and there's a million holes in this place. For $65 a month, there's nobody that's going to spend more than 5 minutes in here trying to help you with this problem. You need to spend $200 to $300 a month minimum, plus a couple $1,000s to get this trapped, install stations outside, and start getting the rodent population down. They weren't willing to do that. Here is a dealership. This is a Mercedes dealership. These doors are automated. When the vehicle drives up, it opens, and it immediately closes behind the technician or the customer. Look at the gap underneath that door. They had rat problems, and rats had gotten into toolboxes, cars, caused several thousands of dollars worth of damage. We had done the metal work on the side frames because there was these square gaps that the manufacturer had left so that you can run wires from the alarm system underneath. And nobody had sealed it after the alarm system was installed, and it had sensors on it. So we had to do metal work to stop the rats from coming into the side on all these doors. There's like 20 doors in this dealership. But then they needed, look at the gap. The floor wasn't level. So they needed to call in the door manufacturer and make sure that door closed all the way to the bottom and had a seal. We had 30 stations. We had a total of about 68 stations installed outside to control the rodent population. One every 30 feet around this massive massive structure. Here's an exterior door to a restaurant. Rats were just walking right in. Roaches all the time. All we have to do is install a seal outside those doors, and the problem is solved. Here is a repair job that was done that wasn't done right. And it failed. And you can see the disrepair that this house was in. But they had rodent problems climbing up there and getting inside. If this was repaired properly, we could control the problem. But when the repairs aren't done, we can't help the client. Here's another one in another restaurant facility. Complaining about roaches. And the thing is that the dumpster was less than 10 feet from there. So they were going to the dumpster. There's always flies, rodents, roach issues near dumpsters, especially in food service facilities. That just needed a threshold fix. This is why in commercial, we include all this when we do an initial service, and why you'll pay $600, $700, $800, $900 on an initial service, because we got to install fly lamps to control flies in a restaurant. We got to install rodent stations. We got to do the sealing of all these doors. We got to do the general pest control. We got to clean out the drains every single month so they don't build up. It's an enormous cost to really do it right. And when somebody says we're paying $45 a month, I said, no wonder you have all these issues. There's nobody that can spend any time here. And time is money. Customer calls, says they got mosquitoes. Screen. Right there. Look at the gap. The door, the window's open, and the gap on that screen. That's no screen at all. Fixing that screen is the problem. Rats getting up, roaches getting up, climbing up the pipes. Here's another one. Look at that black mark that you see. Those are known as rub marks from rodents. Rodents have been getting into this place for years. We looked into the attic, and there was rodent poop everywhere in that attic. We had to do metal work there to fix that. That's actually the line, the wire you see is the wire coming off of the pole. They were climbing across the wire, walking across, and just whoop, walking right up into the attic. And that was about $1,200 worth of repair work that we had to do to custom cut all that aluminum, because we could not remove that pipe. We had to custom cut sheet metal work to fix all that, and plus a bunch of openings around the entire structure. You can see the wood had been replaced and never painted. So when things are in disrepair, chemical, what was their solution? Throw rodenticide in the attic. Every pest control guy would come and just throw rodenticide in the attic, and rats would die, except they would keep coming in. If we just solve that once and for all, and we're talking about 6, 7, 8, she told me it was like 10 years they've been dealing with the rat problem. And nobody ever said, let's seal that. Let's repair that. So we got plenty of resources for you to learn about how to actually control these problems. If you go to naturepest.com, I've got a DIY podcast. We've got about 20 episodes on that coming out, and we've got more episodes on the way. And we also have a DIY blog that shows you how to actually solve specific problems. Here we can't get, why didn't you recommend any chemicals? Because I carry 30-something chemicals on the truck, products, to handle each individual problem. I mean, one problem alone could use up 3 different chemicals, 4 chemicals. For instance, dealing with drain flies, you got to use DSV, Nibor-D, and foam. And then outside, if you've got them, you got to spray it with an IGR and maybe a natural essential oil to control it outside. And then come back the following week and repeat it all over again for 2 to 3 weeks. So getting into specific pest control problems is going to be very difficult unless we create a blog. We also have the Pest Geek podcast, which this is an industry podcast for growing and operating a pest control business. This is not for the residents, although I have many, many technical and tactical podcasts, which we get into depth, real depth, on solving difficult problems and solving routine issues that people miss on how to solve it. So if you got the patience and you want to dig through there and you want to get a real, if you're a building manager that says, man, I really got to know this stuff because I'm dealing with so many issues here and the pest control company isn't solving it and I need to know why. This is how you know why. Do you become a professional? There's also on Nature Pest on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. That YouTube channel has hundreds of videos on actual how to solve most German roach problems, American roach problems, drain fly problems, ant problems. Very, 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 very specific stuff in there. And there's the Pest Geek podcast on YouTube that also has many videos. But again, this is more focused on business development, business growth, and operating a pest control business. So if you're a professional, I've got a couple hundred videos in there too. And finally, we're coming up with the Pest Geek Academy, where we have certified for continuing education credit courses that we're going to be offering, and it's getting populated. We've got about 4 or 5 courses that we want to put in there. And these courses are going to be anywhere between one entire, like the CEU courses are 2 hours each. So 1 hour and 1 hour on something different, you get 2 CEU hours. The other courses are a new technician training course that has everything a technician needs to know about law, about IPM, about HCS, labels, SDSs, and all of these legal things that a technician needs to know before he starts to work. And then we're going to have actual training courses on how to deal with roach problems and ant problems and all kinds of different situations. These are real world training situations that we're trying to get into with a lot of this. So there you go. Those are all the resources. And we hope that this has been helpful to you to help you understand how to start tackling, and whether you have a competent pest control technician or a pest control company. If you have and you're looking for a holistic company, we're only in Miami-Dade, Broward, and we're going to be Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach soon. So mostly South Florida. We're planning to go into Naples and the Keys, but we're only dealing with South Florida. If you need a technician, a good IPM company that does holistic pest management, that does eco-friendly pest control, hey, feel free to drop us a message on Messenger. It's the best way through Facebook, either on Pest Geek podcast or on Nature Pest, because I get those messages no matter what system I'm on. I'm on 5 different phones sometimes. I'm on the computer. I'm on the road. I can always get a message there. You can, trying to call us is going to be very difficult because we get so many calls, and trying to call everybody back that needs help. But Messenger is the best way. If you're needing, also, if you go on you follow me, Franklin Hernandez, look up Franklin Hernandez Pest Control. Hey, I got hundreds of professionals, thousands. I mean, we got about 3,000 professionals that follow me on there. You feel free to drop a question in there and say, hey, I got this problem. I got this insect. Can somebody help me with this? We'd be more than glad to put all of our network at your disposal to help you and help pest control companies that maybe you can't solve the problem. Maybe you need a professional. We can get you a competent person on there that can help you. Hey, I hope this beneficial has been helpful. This is Frank the Pest Geek wishing you a pestacular day.